Oh no. Yeah, I'm gonna be unapologetically cheap with that one. Final Fight for the Super Nintendo was the second game completed as part of the Retro Achievements Twitch stream, and while that playthrough earned me most of the game's achievements, I cleaned the game up offline. When you earn all of the game's achievements, Retro Achievements declares you have mastered the game, and in a bid for dominance, I attempted the same for Final Fight Guy. I was in the second or third stage when I thought, why aren't I recording these and documenting the games I am supposedly mastering? Thus, the Retro Achievements series for VidMe was born. Capcom's Final Fight was an arcade mega hit in 1989, and Final Fight brought the fight to the Super Nintendo launch window in 1990 for Japan and 1991 for the US. Now, we've all heard it before. Final Fight came to homes completely missing a character, a full stage, and co-op play, and the US version saw a number of edits to comply with Nintendo of America's content standards. Capcom sort of remedied one of these issues with a character swap, unleashing Final Fight Guy in Japan in 1992 and the US in 1994. Final Fight Guy has long been billed as the game that merely substitutes Guy for Cody, and it seems the internet only wants to talk about the rarity and value of the US cart. The title saw regular distribution in Japan, but the US saw it as a rental-only game, and it's even said plans to sell the game at retail resulted in 2 different packaging variants for the game. I do have a Final Fight Guy cartridge, but by the time I found one, I had regular access to the Sega CD and arcade versions, so I realized I'd never really played the title until recently. While they are nothing worth running out to grab a copy over, there are subtle differences between the Super Nintendo versions of Final Fight and Final Fight Guy. If you need to fill in a void in your collection, Super Famicom versions run cheaper, giving you the most ideal Super Nintendo version unless you really need to be repping Cody, who is widely considered the best character to play as, but this video isn't about him. Before the game even starts, there is a slight edit to the intro video which is needed to explain why Cody isn't rushing to the rescue of his girlfriend. In Final Fight Guy, both Guy and Cody had taken up martial arts training, and Guy had just decided to return to Metro City sooner than Cody. That's it. So with a quick shuffle of the character select screen, Cody is nearly wiped entirely clean of the game, and we're left with the duo of Guy and Hagar. Once you enter the game, things go largely unchanged compared to the standard Final Fight cart. Entering the fray as Guy, we're given the same set of tools the character had in arcades. Even though the technique was always listed on the arcade machine's bezel, most people seem to overlook that the Final Fight characters can hold a direction during their combo string to execute a throw instead of the final strike of their hit string. Players can also manipulate the attack string to send a punch behind them and reset the string. This results in infinite punches as long as the player can keep a rhythm going. This tactic is one of the reasons why I earlier referred to Cody as the best character, as he has more power behind his punches than Guy and doesn't have to hold the infinite as long. Hagar can loop some enemies with one punch alternating back and forth, but his infinite string is far less potent than Guy or Cody's. This infinite tactic is even given a nod as an Easter egg in Street Fighter Alpha 3, as Cody's Final Destruction super attack has him continually turning his back during the rush of attacks. While playing the original Final Fight cart, I noticed there were areas of slowdown, especially anytime barrels were placed on the screen or a few of the bosses used weapons. This seemed less noticeable in Final Fight Guy, so I don't know if this was just my imagination, or if a few of the memory issues were ironed over for the Final Fight Guy release. Something else that might be entirely my imagination is Final Fight Guy having a difficulty toggle that actually affects the game more evenly than the original cartridge. The original SNES cart has difficulty toggles that more reflect arcade dip switches. The arcade boards have 2 difficulty toggles, a difficulty A that ranges from 1 to 8, and a difficulty B that ranges from 1 to 4, resulting in 32 different settings. The Final Fight Guy cart, however, gives players a more straightforward range of difficulties to select from. We'll get to it later, but there's something that isn't my imagination when it comes to difficulty, and that's in the extras and endings you can get by going to max difficulty. Since there's no direct way to select options from the title screens, players actually need a code to see the full ending. Beating up the bad guys in the absence of Cody, players still trudge through the street, the subway, the edge of the city, and uptown. Noting Final Fight Guy was not a true arcade game, Capcom did see it fit to add 2 additional items into the trash bin and barrel rotation to give the players an edge. Both of these items are dolls, and the first appears as a chibi Guy or Hagar, depending on which character you are using. These pickups grant the player an extra life, allowing a quicker accumulation of lives when coupled with score extends. The player can also find a doll representing Jessica, which grants the player temporary invincibility. Retro achievements keep the achievements for this game straightforward. We can use the infinite string to take down Thrasher, which doesn't allow him to take a timeout and whistle for reinforcements. We can still use the ring boundary to manipulate Katana and use jumping knees and throws to keep him in check. After Katana's defeat, the player can wail on a Mad Gear car in a bonus round to get the classic "Oh my car" moment. In Stage 3, we are still able to keep with arcade strategies and lure Eddie E out so he can't call for reinforcements, and then wail away on him with the infinite string. Street Fighter V newcomer Abigail watches over Stage 4 and gets a massive amount of invincibility frames throughout the fight. It is possible to use the infinite string on him if you can land the attacks and keep the other thugs away from you. Otherwise, it takes wise use of your desperation attack to thwart his iframes and prevent him from choking you for massive damage. Following the stage, players are treated to another bonus stage where the characters smash glass from the industrial sector that absolutely isn't included with the Super Nintendo version of the game. Stage 5 is a long haul with a ton of enemies, but it makes accumulating your point total achievements fairly easy, especially with the extra work you need to put in on harder difficulties. Retro achievements in Final Fight Guy pop at 100,000, 200,000, and 1 million points. Belger is the final boss of the game, depending entirely on a crossbow and backup in the standoff. Staying on top of him with throws and taking advantage of your desperation attacks will chip down his health, and before you know it, you've beaten the game. Players will need to do a minimum of 2 playthroughs for the game to nab the achievements for clearing the game as Guy and Hagar. Difficulty doesn't come into play for the retro achievements, but I still tackled the game on the hardest difficulty with Hagar, so we can see the full ending of the game. Since Cody isn't around for Guy to kick some sense into, he's forced into talking to Jessica himself, resulting in a fairly awkward conversation. A congratulations screen follows, presenting chibi versions of the characters and a recreation of the original arcade ending. So for all of our trivia buffs, Cody does technically make an appearance in Final Fight Guy. With that, we scooped up the full achievement set and mastered Final Fight Guy for the Super Nintendo. If you want to join in on the fun and see what I'm talking about with retro achievements, head over to retroachievements.org to get the full scoop. With modified emulators, you can play select game ROMs featuring full achievement sets, just like in current Xbox, PlayStation, or PC games. The site tracks your stats and allows you to compare them with friends. Until next time, happy hunting!